Hello there, Outliers. Niyama Shang here, and thank you so very much for letting us be a part of your journey here today. Outliers, we're going to get into it because we have ourselves an incredible roundtable of four amazing outliers that are going to not just share what they are doing right now, but who they are being and how they use that to uplevel themselves and the people that they serve. I want to make sure you get a chance to get to know these outliers here. So let me just say thank you to Menna Olvera, Emily Mears, Abby Goldberg, and Mark Hayward. Thank you all for coming onto the platform and honestly just for being who you are to even get to this point, because I wouldn't have found you if y'all were playing an average game.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to have you here. So, Menna, let's start off with you. Let's make sure the outliers get a chance to get to know you and the game you're currently playing. Would you mind letting us know more about that?
Sure. The game that I'm currently playing is founder of Prepare to Caregive as a way to bring service to people who find themselves in these challenging situations in life, more so now than ever before. And taking my background of media and integrative therapy and yoga and the renaissance of wellness that I have, and really plugging it to a niche of people that I feel really need a service. And really taking it to a level where I'm not hiding anymore behind my messaging, and that it's really there to service people at a high level, to answer questions, to be curious, and to really give support around this particular topic that I bear witness to people challenging it every single day.
Mm. Well, I'm excited to hear more about that here. There's something about like not hiding behind your message that I also feel like is it's an interesting way of putting it, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm being visible. My message is out there. It's like, yeah, but where are you? So thank you. You already got me thinking here, Menna. Glad to have you here. Emily, let's get to know you. Would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Sure. So I had been a lawyer and then I stopped practicing law. And when my father became sick with vascular dementia, I began researching frantically all that I could find to see if there was something that could postpone the onset of his disease. And what I found was quite grim in terms of neurodegenerative diseases. So I expanded my research to include all chronic disease, which includes autoimmune, cardiovascular, cancer, which is what's going to get most of us. I wrote a book all about science with 200 footnotes. Somehow I got it published, but I found the marketing of it difficult. As a lawyer, we don't know anything about marketing. I was not prepared to dance on TikTok to market the book. But to that end, I somehow found myself on 60 podcasts trying to share what I learned, which had been my objective. I learned some incredibly useful, valuable, and interesting things that anybody can do to improve their health, many of them low cost and free. Um, and so I was kind of humming along, trying to figure out the marketing world, not successfully because it was really hard for me. Um, and then my house burned down in the Palisades fire last January. So basically, 2025, I took a break from life. I mean, there was so much involved in dealing with the insurance and the Army Corps of Engineers and everything that I couldn't have ever imagined associated with an entire community burning to the ground. So I did that for 2025, literally stopped everything else, literally every aspect of my life. And then 2026 came around. I thought, okay, I have to get back into life. And here I am. I had been having a lot of people email me asking me if I would be on their podcast, things like that. And I couldn't do it last year, but now I'm trying to resume. Um, and my philosophy has evolved quite a bit. In a way, I'm kind of not so much a whistleblower, but I've been involved in the longevity community for about 9 years. And at first, when I entered it, it was so hopeful and optimistic. And some of the things that they were promoting, I thought were great and exciting. And my research has continued, and I found that a lot of it is not validated. It's not scientifically based. The promises that have been made in terms of longevity for things such as senolytic drugs, they're turning out not to be good. And yet there are a lot of these biohackers and people in the longevity community trying to make money, selling everybody all sorts of supplements and things. At the same time, they're pushing back at our healthcare system, which is one size fits all, and they're doing the same thing without regard to our individual biochemistry and genetics. That just because something works for one person, be it a supplement or any kind of these protocols, it doesn't mean that it will work for anybody else, and it could be harmful. So I'm kind of pushing back at that dialogue.
Oh, Emily, like I'm excited to have you on here. I love how you said like I'm kind of pushing back, like you're pushing back, and so like it's good to have you here. And this is it. I get it. Like this outlets, we talk a lot here about the distinction between leadership and being a leader, right? And you're going to see this keep coming over and over again. It's not about what's your executive presence. It's what do you stand for, and how do you go out in the world and keep bringing that out to life. And so I appreciate you all for bringing this already to the table. Abby, let's bring you all in here as well. Let us know more about you. Let us know about the game you're playing, and we'll come on from there.
Great. Thank you. And thank you to my collaborators on here. I already have so many things to talk about with you guys. I have worked in human rights and social justice since I was a kid. I grew up with the Nicaraguense war refugee as my nanny and housekeeper, and learned English and Spanish at the same time. And she was a really huge influence in my life. I've spent my career as an entrepreneur building 3 human rights nonprofits. And then I now run a business called Variant Strategies that uses media and other new technology to advance what's possible with the law. And it's a journey, and I'm always on this journey. And as an entrepreneur, I always have the next idea, filling my head. I think for me, my North Star is really about empowering women and girls, which is something that has been a product of my personal and professional life. And I hope to spend a good part of the rest of my life working on a number of things under that umbrella.
Well, I'm glad that you're here, Abby. Thank you for playing the game that you do. I'm excited to see how we play with it in a bit too. And then Mark, bring us home on this one and let us get to know you and the game that you are playing.
So I'm involved in everything podcasting. So I've run my own show for over 8 years. I'm coming up to 600 episodes. We're just organising a special for the 600th episode. And I've probably interviewed over 300 people on my show as well. Incredibly proud of the time and just effort that it's done to be able to get that to over 8 years. We also help people start and grow their show. Me and a friend do that, and we very much give them everything, the strategies that they need to be able to start and grow a podcast. And about 5 years ago, with a business partner, we set up a business where called Podcast Introduction, which is about helping business owners get guest appearances and how to be able to use that as a leverage to grow their business. So we work just with business owners and we sort of give them media training, we give them coaching, we do all of the placing and finding of the shows. And then we work with their marketing channels as well to make sure that they're building content that can go on for many, many months after they've done it. So in my world I worked 14 years in corporate, and ever since I became an entrepreneur, I've been building businesses and strategies to be able to use podcasting as a great strategy to grow their business or just get their voice out there, get visibility, credibility, and trust.
Well, thank you, Mark. As someone who's been podcasting for a long time, I'm really glad to hear. I'm actually excited to see, like how you leverage podcasting and honestly, just like having your message and voice out there. This is something that I'm excited for us to explore here. I'm going to ask a question here, and Outliers, I'll let everyone else know this. I'll tell you too here. This might be the one question I asked this entire conversation. We have an incredible group of people here for the roundtable. So if y'all end up taking the questions in different directions, as long as it's serving Outliers, we're going to stick with it. Okay. Uh, I'm going to start with this one here today. I heard a number of different things that were showing up that were like piquing my interest, like not hiding behind your message, whistleblowing. And when you talk about whistleblowing, it made me think about like truth telling. The element of like how do you get your message out into the world? Like, I mean, it's like I went on 60 podcasts. Mark is like I help like people build things through their podcasts. Like, so we have all these different ways that were coming in. And I think that what I want to start off with here is a bit on the underneath all this, which is that all four of you show up like fully committed to the thing that you are creating right now. And my ask of you, this is a personal question, is that coming from this place on me here, but I'm curious about like I'll call it the energy of being too much, right? Like the energy of going in like so fully on something where most people are like, I'm just trying to like get through the day. And you're out here with big goals. You're taking on like larger dreams. I'm curious about like how y'all navigate or what drives you to continue to go after the big things when it would be so much easier to play a much smaller game or something that might be a lot more palatable. I'm not going to ask anyone, like whoever wants to take it, go ahead and just start with it, and then we'll just see where the conversation goes from there. Anyone want to start us off?
Sure. I'm happy
Go.
to. It's funny that you asked that question because I literally was writing notes for what I'm doing, and at the top of my thing, I wrote, I think it's right here actually, and I just was like, it's time. It's be clear about the outcome, get yourself out of the way, and remember the bigger mission. So whenever I feel like I'm starting to think to myself, oh, this is too big of an idea. How is it going to all get organized? Who am I going to get to support me? What is it that I'm really trying to do? I can talk myself out of it really quickly. So when that voice starts to play in, I'm like, okay, but what's the mission? Because if I think about what's the people I'm serving that are bigger than myself, then I realize like myself is enough to show up and use my techniques, use my skill set, use what God gave me to live my mission and my purpose. And I think that sometimes when we play small, it's just we're in an incubator and we're still kind of growing, right? So Prepare to Care Give, for example, has been with me for the last 3 to 5 years when my parents were sick. So it's taken me that long to actually take everything, organize it in my mind, and then take it out of my mind and put it into something tangible.
I really think everyone on this panel, on this roundtable, has a passion for what they do. I think everyone that's spoken, including myself, and that's what makes business owners, entrepreneurship so much fun and so enjoyable, is because you do turn up every day and you do the hard things, you do the easy things, but you enjoy it because you have a mission, you have a passion for what you're doing. And therefore, for me, like, I get up, even the stuff that I don't want to do, I know that it's there to support a community, to support a group. And so I'd be interested to hear other people's thoughts when it comes to that intersection between passion as well as being able to grow something and monetize it.
So I have a slightly different, particularly perspective as to what you said. When I began doing my research, I found so many valuable and interesting things that could help almost everybody. And I thought it was incumbent upon me to share that because I'm a frantic researcher and I know that other people may not be as inclined. So I found that if I would be on an airplane or at a party or something, I would just be talking about some of these things like, oh, you have sleep issues? here are 4 things that you can do, completely free, non-pharmaceutical. And they'd be like, oh, I'd like to know more. So my passion drove me, but the monetization of it really stumped me, because I did not want to sell anything despite everybody selling things. To me, that felt like a conflict of interest. When you begin selling things, you lose your credibility. And so that has been a stumbling block for me. I'm very passionate about my information. I make sure it's science-based and accurate. And I share the information, but I have no idea how to monetize any of this without incurring a conflict of interest, which I'm not willing to do.
So, sorry to ask you a question, Emily, but if you're not monetizing it, how do you keep going? Like you need to have an element of money coming in to be able to keep on doing the credible and important things, the advice that you are doing. So you can give a lot away for free, but you do need to be able to monetize it to be able to exist.
Well, I would like to monetize it, but it has not been. I mean, I did get a publisher, an actual publisher. I did not self-publish. And I was very naive about the publishing industry, only to come to learn that it's kind of crooked, like everything else these days, and I will not see a penny from the book. So now I give them away. I just give away the books. I find someone who's interested. I'm like, here, I'll give you a book. And like I said, I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of at a crossroads right now. Like I said, I took a huge break, and now I'm kind of coming back to it. And I believe in the information that I researched and learned, and I really want to share it, but I don't know how to make it a source of monetization. I really don't, unless I'm not willing to sell my soul. So, and I'm hoping it won't require that.
Emily, I just have a question. When you say selling things, are you speaking of like specific, like selling like a scarf, or selling your book? Like if you went a different path, do you not feel comfortable selling your book?
Oh no, I totally feel comfortable selling my book. What I'm referring to is the other biohackers, the other people in the wellness community, the other people who are similarly situated in the longevity community. They are selling supplements, selling devices. There are many fascinating. I have a whole chapter on all the tech devices that gather data, which I find really interesting, but I'm not going to sell them. And what people do is they get these kickbacks from the companies who make them. And to me, that seems disingenuous. And it's an exact repeat of our broken healthcare system. Just one size fits all, without knowing what the person's individual needs and conditions are. I would be, people said, you should be a coach. I said, I would be reluctant to be a coach because it would require blood work and so many other things that I'm not certified to do. I don't want to give people advice, but most of the people in the community, they do not hesitate to give advice. And, I'm wondering if we're going to see some bad outcomes as a result.
Well, you have a legal background, right?
I'm self-taught in science. I mean, to the point where I was asked to go speak at a conference in Rome with all credentialed scientists as the only non-credentialed scientist. It was during COVID. It was March of 2020 in Rome, the epicenter. And it was all these credentialed scientists. And so it kept getting postponed. And I ended up doing it virtually. How I, as a non-credentialed scientist, do my research and am able to distill fact from fiction and break it down so that the layperson can kind of understand the salient points of the research.
So like there's something that's showing up in here that I'm glad that, like, Mark, I'm glad that you caught this and you brought this into the conversation here, which is like, all right, like, how do you fund the vision? Right. So y'all are going after big things. How do you fund the vision? Right. Whether it's monetizing it, your fundraising, whatever it is here, like, to continue to make the impact that we want to be making out in the world, there's a monetary element to this all here. And so I'm really curious for how each of you go about it. I'm also hearing and the perspectives that you have. So you can talk about both the external part in terms of like this is what I do, but also like I think Emily, you've opened up the door for like the internal part. Like how like what are the beliefs that you have that you carry that allow you to continue to keep growing and bringing in more funding forward here. I haven't heard from Mark or Abby on this one. Like so, I'd love to start there, but like let's just keep this open.
I'll try and start answering that
Yeah, go ahead, Abby,
and
please.
responding to what everyone else has said. I've worked on both the nonprofit and for-profit side of things, though to be totally honest, I run my for-profit business like a nonprofit because that's how I was trained and that's what I know. For me, I've been able to achieve the impact I've had mostly through philanthropic dollars. I'm trying to find a better way and exploring opportunities to better monetize my work. Going back to what Emily was saying, and I can talk, those include like maybe finding a business partner who comes from the private sector and doing work with sustainable businesses in addition to the human rights clients that I most often go after. Go after doesn't sound great, but am most passionate about their work. And I think, I don't know, it's really important, I think, to value ourselves, including financially, because we have something really important to say and share, and we want to be able to continue doing that. So I don't think about it so much as selling. I think about it as like enabling. Important work to be done.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
makes
I
sense.
agree. I 100% agree. And I struggled with advertisers, sponsors on my own show. For a long time, I didn't really want to have sponsors. And then I started being approached by people and various affiliations. People were sort of introducing them to me to be sponsors on my show. And I turned down a lot of things like, for example, a bed company. I kind of went, look, it's a business show. There is a twist, like you need to be able to sleep well but it didn't feel authentic to me. So I turned down a lot of people, not a lot of people, but people that did approach me that I didn't feel were good fits. And the way that I was able to get something that I felt was authentic to me and my business and my podcast was guests of my show and people that had been introduced to me that I'd either worked with or I'd had first-hand experience of understanding what they did and who they worked with. So it was like, for example, one of the sponsors on my show, she worked with someone that I knew and they built a website, and it's all about building websites very fast at a very, very high quality. And so I brought her on as a sponsor on my show because it wasn't first-hand experience. She didn't build my website, but she'd built someone that I knew, and I felt that he was very happy with the service. So I felt that I could authentically say, this person does something very, very special, very, very important. And my listeners, my watchers, my viewers should consider working with her. So I understand where people are challenged of like, it doesn't feel authentic to me to monetize it because it feels wrong. But if you can get over your mindset of that it has to be authentic, it has to be something that you've either validated yourself or you've been able to know people that have been doing it. That's how I overcame those challenges, and that's how we've been able to have some sponsors on my show.
Nice. Outliers, I want you to take, since we're having this conversation here, you're also a part of this here. So if there's anything that comes to you, if you have any questions, any comments, anything that's running through you, like go ahead and leave a message in the chat, and we'll incorporate, we'll bring this in. Think for yourself here, like we're talking right now, and I really appreciate it. We're talking about this here around monetizing, and not just like how, but like how to do it in a way that feels good, right? How to do it in a way that feels aligned. And Mark, you just used the word authentic, and I feel like that's really one of the things that's on the table. So like both how do we get it done, but then like if we're like now that we're doing it, how do we do it in a way that feels authentic? And I want to lean more into this element of the authenticity. And Menna, you said something earlier that's been playing in the back of my mind here, where you said not hiding behind your message. One, I'm curious about like what you meant. How did that actually play out for you? But two, I see this happening. I can imagine outliers listening to this. Wanting to have everything like lined up exactly right before they go out into the world around it, like wanting to become experts without actually having any like experience, and like not necessarily sure like how to keep letting their authentic selves out into the world. Now that's my lens that I'm listening to. You all will have a different lens when you hear that element of not hiding behind your message. But man, I would love if you can like bring a little bit more bring that into the conversation, and maybe we can have a quick discussion around each of our experiences with some variation of that. Would you mind getting us on that, Menna?
Sure. So a few years ago, I did a Tony Robbins online course. And one of the things that they were messaging that really resonated with me was that your own life experience is real. And if you're able to take that and bottle it to share it, that's authentic. I don't need a certification for that. So I'm just using caregiving because that's just my headspace right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a trained nurse. I'm not a CNA. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a therapist. I have a different kind of background training in wellness that I draw upon. But I did care for parents that were ill for a very long time, flying back and forth across the country and figuring out how to navigate it while working full time and having a child and a husband that was like on the East Coast and my family was on the West Coast. So through those years of tears and joy and traveling, I became an expert, right? So in that, I take my strength when my insecure voice comes in and says, "You're not qualified." I'm like, well, actually, I am. And I have a lot of pain to show for it, like internal dialogue to overcome that helped give me the language and the messaging that I have. And when I say that I'm not hiding behind the message anymore, is coming out in front and speaking and giving talking presentations, presentations at corporations and answering those questions and getting paid for that, because caregiving was expensive and I lost a lot of money. And that's part of the Rubik's Cube of caregiving, right? Is the working and not letting that interfere with your work. So I, at one point, went through a phase of when I was working with cancer patients, and I still do that kind of, I'm not a trained death doula, but I do sit with people that are dying. And that processes gave me confidence, but I didn't want to charge when I was doing that work. Or sometimes if I was doing yoga and I had clients that I knew didn't have the money to pay, but I had other clients that did have money to pay, I would charge my clients that could afford it, and that would pay for those that couldn't, that I would give for free. So it was finding a balance of give and take, and through that finding my confidence to speak aloud what my message is in any spectrum of my businesses, because I have a media production company as well. So also in that company, I'm stepping out in front and not hiding behind the message of our editorial or our productions. You know what I mean? I hope that wasn't a word salad.
No, it sounds like you've got a unique lens that your therapist, your doula, the nurses would have, and how they react to caregiving. But it sounds to me that you've got a unique lens that can be even more empathetic with people that are experiencing troubles when their parents are older or ill. And I think all power to you to go and find those ways to be able to monetize it, so you can give that support to the people that do need it. And that's a wonderful spiritual way of being able to approach what you're doing now.
Thank you.
I
And I'm
have
not ashamed to take a payment anymore, which is
Good.
really important to say.
good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that my whole monetization issues are not from an insecurity about my message. On the contrary, I feel very confident that my research and my analysis are valuable and accurate because I take great pains. My issue is my background as a lawyer. I see most things through the lens of liability. And that is a bit of a stumbling block. And not only that, but being in the state of California, which is highly litigious, those two things make it so that it can't be a free for all. You can't just go out in the world and brazenly do whatever you want. I mean, that's my training. Now, having said that, speaking was something I was going to investigate at the end of 24. But as I mentioned, I took a little break and I'm just kind of revamping and trying to figure now what my next steps are. But yeah, I'm not insecure about my message at all.
I don't think that's coming across like that like we feel you in the power of your message. So just to like we in this space here, and I think it's really clear to outliers, like we get it. Like it's almost like you're like I'm so secure in it, like we'll figure out the other part of it, but I'm just gonna make sure that people get this. Like that part, just so you know, we see you in the power of your message. You did say something here that I think would be I got really curious about here, and I'm thinking about any outlier that's listening to this as well. You said I see things through the lens of liability, and you talked about like your profession being like one of the reasons that's out there. I'll be really curious here. This is just an open question for us all here. Like what's the lens in which like you tend to look through things? Like honestly, I look through things through the lens of outlier. I'm like, what makes you different, and how do we leverage that? Like I'm always looking for that. I'm curious about like the lens that you use, and how you're able to like uniquely apply it in the world that you're in right now. Because a lot of our outliers have had a very like different paths. Anyone want to take that one?
So I spent 14 years in corporate, and when I left, it was very difficult starting small businesses because of a business that has thousands and thousands of people in their organization. And so I had to relearn some certain things about running smaller businesses when you've got 5-10 people that are working for you. But what I've found is, and I think this could be good for you, Emily, is take the best parts of your experiences but relearn the ways that you need to do the alternative. So for me, it was taking the best aspects of corporate running a business, but then learn, evolve, change the ways of small businesses and how they are run also. So for a while it was a challenge because I had a great expectation of people, and I had a great expectation of myself, and it's really evolved. And I think you should never forget where you've come from and the experiences that you've got, but you have to evolve that and change that and develop that as your path changes and you go into that separate path.
Thank you.
Abby, I saw you earlier. Is there something you wanted to bring in?
Yeah, a couple things. On the last point that you were just talking about what lens do you see the world through? I had a really wonderful mentor and first boss who was a genius in her own, a MacArthur genius, and worked with Ruth Bader Ginsburg to invent reproductive rights. Really, really brilliant woman. And she said to me that nothing is impossible when you, with hard work, conviction, and strategic thinking. And I kind of applied that, like, I don't know, when I have a new idea of something that, when I hear a new injustice or something that's really appalling, the more complicated it is, the more attracted to it I am. And I think a lot of that is applying the lens of nothing is impossible. So that's my answer to the lens. And then coming back to what you were saying, Menna, about hiding behind messaging. I've struggled with that a lot in my career, and I'm a storyteller now, and I tell other people's stories professionally, but except my own. And I think that there are some real, what do I want to say? I think that it shines through, the like personal experience comes out in the work and in the passion. But there are real obstacles, talking about mental health, that could be really impactful negatively, because we live in a society that's just not ready for it. Or potential legal implications of, signing an NDA. So I think a lot about how to tell stories in an authentic way, but a way that won't challenge my ability to do my work, I guess.
I'm liking this. I'm liking this here. Like as y'all are talking, it's getting me to think here. Mark, I know that you work with various clients who have a message. They want to bring something out into the world, and you leverage the power of podcasts and the systems behind it. Like it's not just like come on a podcast. Like I heard through the game that you play, just how robustly and completely you go and serve in that way. I'm curious for you, like when you run into clients who are also like stepping onto a bigger stage, or like Menna, we talk about like coming out into the front here. How like what are some of the things that you see to be the most common that have either helped you along the way, or that you found to be really useful for your clients? For any outlier out there that's like, oh, it's my time to go out and step into the spotlight.
So from a podcast guesting point of view and actually having it as a strategy, we talk through with our clients, what are the key messages that you want to talk about on that show? And they might be, if they're a business owner, it might be differentiating in the market. It might be strategies that they approach. We then support that with what are the stories, whether they're case studies, whether they are personal stories, what are the key messages with the stories that are going to have the biggest impact on for our clients in front of that audience. And then you've got to have a great call to action. So they need to know where they go after they've been on the show to then make that next step. So for us, we do coaching and support our clients, because a lot of our clients have maybe done 1 or 2 shows, a friend's introduced them to a show, or maybe they've just done none and they don't really have an idea of how they're going to be able to step in front of people and talk about their message. But if you think about those 3 things, you think about the messages you want to talk about, you think about the stories that support that, and then be able to make sure the audience know where to go at the end. That's an incredible way of being able to fully represent yourself, how you want to be portrayed when you're going on podcasts.
You say we have the lens of podcasting here. I'll be curious here. We're about to come up on time, so I can't go like as deep in this as I want. But I'm thinking about Abby right now with some like the stories that you tell here. I'm like, I wonder how different that really is, right? Where it's like, what's the message you want to get across? What are the stories that go behind it, and then what is the action that you want people to take as a result of having been through that? Right. Abby, just a quick thing. Like, does that feel a lot like I'm trying to say this in a way that's like Outliers, like whether you go on a podcast or not, like this seems like an incredible framework. It's a simple framework, Mark. That's what I love about it. I'm like, it's a simple and intuitive. You're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. What do I want to get done? Like what do I stand for? What are the stories that support that? What do they need to do? Simple. And so I'm really grateful for that. Mark, is there anything else you want to say on that before we end here?
It's just really, if you think about, like, everyone has a story, everyone has a message, everyone has what they stand for, what they believe in. And I think being on a podcast is a great way of being able to convey that. And the reason why I love it so much is that it's long form. You have 20, 30, 60 minutes talking about the things that are important to you. And you can't be unauthentic. You have to be yourself on the long form. If you do short form stuff, you can ramp up the energy. You can really, you can do the TikTok dances and all that sort of stuff, which work for some people. But the reason why I love podcasting, and I'll show up on podcasts and do my own show, is because it is an authentic medium that is there, that you can stand by, and that's why it's just a fantastic medium for presenting as a host, for guesting, and as well as for the listener as well.
Well, I appreciate all of you here. I'm so surprised by how quickly the time went by. Like, I want to just keep dialing in. What I will say here is that we're going to wrap up with that call to action, right? For each of you, I want to make sure that each of you have a way to make sure that Outliers can go deeper down the journey with you, and then we'll do that first. We'll make sure everyone goes and shares this. There's one question I close every single conversation with, but first, let's make sure the Outliers know how they can go deeper down the journey. So we'll start with you, Mark. Then we'll go to Abby.
Yeah, so 2 simple ways. You go onto LinkedIn, find me, Mark Hayward, the one that's in London. You can connect with me on there, and you can DM me, or you can go to our website, which is podcastintroduction.com, and you can then set up a discovery call if you'd like to learn about more to do with podcast guesting.
Thank you, Mark. Abby, and then Menna.
So you can learn more about the work that I'm doing at variantstrategies.com. That's the work that I've done up until now. Moving forward, I'm working on a business that the working title is reproductive, and stay tuned for more information on that. And I'm really looking for a business partner to help me out in both endeavors. Somebody ideally from the private sector who is looking for a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Abby, and thanks for bringing it in here. Menna, and then Emily.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about Prepare to Caregive, you can check out the website, preparetocaregive.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I have a 6-week program that I'm launching in April. So if you want to really dive in deeper and learn how to prepare to caregive, even if it's at the beginning or the middle of your journey, or even at the end, everything that I teach is applicable, and would love to learn more and hear from anybody who's interested. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And then Emily, want to bring us home on this?
So here's my book that I wrote called Optimizing Your Health. It's available on Amazon, wherever books are sold. I have a website with my name, Emily Gold Mears. I had social media, Instagram, but I kind of abandoned it last year. But, I'm just starting to resume things. But that's where you can get a hold of me.
All right. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up our conversation. The way that I do this here is I love for every conversation we have has the premise of being life changing. And so, what I'm like to ask each of you here is, what is a takeaway or an insight that you're leaving this experience with going forward? And don't make it one up if nothing's come to you. If you're like, this was just a good time, I'm not really leaving anything with here, that's totally fine as well. All right. We'll do this and then we'll end for today. Mark, we'll start with you. I think I'll try and do the same order on this one. So, Mark and
Yeah,
then Abby.
that's fine. Something that I've learned today is the importance of the message that other people on this roundtable have had, and the struggle that sometimes people have about getting their message across and being able to share that message. It's something that I spent a decade doing personal development from all different types of channels, working out what my mission, my message, and my purpose was. And it's just been really interesting hearing people from lots of different backgrounds, and getting that clarity on your message, your mission, and your purpose is really what's been telling for me today. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mark. Abby?
I think that, so I'm also in a moment of transition in my life. And I think the message for me today is everyone kind of always is. It's a journey. And that's helpful to remember as I keep doing this work.
Thank you, Abby. I'll go to Menna and then Emily will bring us home.
Then I need to get a podcast.
100% agree. I think everyone should on this channel.
I think I'm ready for a Prepare to Care Give podcast. So,
Yes.
Mark, maybe I'll be reaching out to you soon.
By all means, you know where to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. No, seriously though, yes, that, but also just how important it is to really maximize your messaging through podcasting, through media, and just being authentic with whatever it is that you're offering. And being being aware of what liabilities you're putting out there with whatever you're producing. So thank you for that one, Emily.
Thank you. And then Emily?
Well, I think my takeaway is that it's always a treat to talk to other people who are involved in different endeavors. And what it did for me is it sort of inspired me to carry on, despite the obstacles, of which there are always many. It's important just to carry on, and to hear from all of you has inspired me to focus on that. So thank you.
Thank you all. Well, I'm deeply grateful for you. There are things that I've recognized for myself where I'm like, you can bring your 10 out of 10 energy each and every time, and it can always there's always something that will come out of it. So I appreciate each of you. Outliers, share your insights, share how you're going to change from this year. I'm sure and reach out to each of these people here as you continue down your journey. Until the next time we talk, be you on purpose. Journey on.